talk to my lawyer?
Do you want to? Where's the theme song?
Oh Jesus!
Come on, man.
I had this real that music was like awesome. Okay, are we on?
Just 1 second. I just want to make sure that we're.
Hey, hell, I'd pay the price. So we're at CISO Part 2, and I like to call this the Recovering CISO Tour. My joke is, my name's Carl, recovering CISO. It's been 2 years since my last breach. And the joke is the life expectancy of a CISO is 18 months. So the good news, bad news is not for long, but you're one of like an NHL hockey coach, one of 20 people that can coach in the bigs, and there's always a team. So on that note, I want to build on the last podcast with George CISO to talk to Bill the CISO, and kind of you know the drill. So name, rank, serial number, and what brings you to BSides.
Excellent. So Bill Dunnion. I was formerly the Senior Director of Security for Calian. I'm also the co-founder of the Canadian Cyber Forum. And so we started what was originally the Ottawa Cybersecurity Meetup Group. 6 years running, over 2,000 people have connected with us. So it's kind of my way of trying to give back to the community.
And our podcast, like we're getting all those, right? Those influencers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, and hashtag follow me. And BSides. So I've been attending BSides. This is the third venue, so a while. And I like it because it's a grassroots organization. And actually, so the 2 seconds, the origin of the name BSides, for those that don't know. So RSA, everyone's kind of heard of if you haven't heard of the RSA breach, you've heard of the RSA trade show. And so way back in the beginning, you have to do the call for papers. They accept all kinds of topics and speakers, but then they also say no to a lot of speakers. And so in Vegas, all of the people that submitted but weren't accepted decided to start to meet off campus. And so they do their own speaking track of all of the rejected talks, and so they kind of formed BSides.
Steve and I have a business idea that was, born about the same time that we came up with the podcast, drinking, that we'd have a C-sides and down to a Z-sides. And when people would show up, when they got the Z, we go, you've been turned down by like B, C, like this is it, right?
Yeah.
Well, this is it.
Exactly, yeah. And so why do I like BSides? Grassroots. What I really like about the Ottawa chapter, a lot of the BSides, it's the true, I hate to say it, I mean it in the most affectionate way, it's the true geeks of cybersecurity and technology. Vendors are evil, so it's all about the pure tech.
Didn't we we were going to get an air horn every time someone said a vendor name? We just like
there we go. What I like about the Ottawa chapter is they're trying to create I'll say a hybrid approach.
I agree. Because
vendor community is important. It's if you can get past the marketing use of AI, but the technology is required in order for us to do our jobs, and so you can't really do security or IT or technology without some sort of vendor in the background. Right,
because we got into the theme, and then when we get to other questions, it's not just about tech; it's about business. Like security is a business enabler, and unfortunately for conferences and sponsors and whatever, you got to figure out a way to make it grow, and that's money. Yeah,
and so the last thing, if I were to summarize and say three things. So one, it's the technology. There's a lot of excellent modern technology. You need to stay current. So what are the trends? So you get that. The presentations and the talks, especially this year, have been excellent. Great speakers, and so you can actually understand and follow. They aren't pulling up command line. This is how you blow things up. And then it's the people, and I've heard that as a theme, is the networking. So between the meeting and catching up with the community, the talks and the content, and then the vendors and the technology and what's new, I think those would be the three main things.
Cool. So a little bit of a pivot. It's all about Bill. Yeah. So a lot of the audience out there are newly minted grads, or they want to crack into cyber. So love to hear your origin story.
Yeah.
Like how'd you get into cyber, but more almost as importantly, how'd you get to be the Bill? So it's breaking in and then there's succeeding.
All right, so how did I get so if I think about how I got my start, you start in telecom. So yeah, no, there's the whole accidental security spin. So I got my start once upon a time, telecom. If you live in Ottawa, chances are you work for either BNR or Nortel. So my first job out of school, I finally got a job. I was down in Brockville for a manufacturing subsidiary of Nortel. So anyways, I got my start on the telecom side, and I found myself finding roles that nobody else wanted to do. At the time, telecom, there was the whole convergence of voice networks and IP. And so I was always on the computer telephony integration. I was always on the application, the automation side of things. And so that's how I got my introduction to networking and IP. Solution specialist, sales specialist. I just understood what are the building blocks, how do you make them work, how do you hang them together, so what my mechanical engineering degree taught me how to do was understand technology, and I very quickly learned that I liked dealing with people more than I liked dealing with computers.
Yeah, you started dancing on you just said sales, like you went to both sides of the tech versus business.
Yeah, so so the hybrid, I guess, technical schooling background, ended up into product marketing. Supporting sales teams, enabling sales teams, sales engineering, I guess, is SE is a common phrase these days. So I never had that specific role, but I basically did, just had different names, different titles. So I was able to pick up the technology and be that translator. With the convergence of voice and IP, if you think back, actually. So once upon a time, there was a Borderware was an excellent Toronto company. They came out with the first SIP-aware firewall. Right. And so the geek part, the technical part, an email packet and a voice packet, a VoIP packet, are identical. And so you look at the packets and you got the header, you got the payload. So technically a voice payload could be a malicious piece. And so Borderware had the first SIP-aware firewall. So from the voice side, you get introduced to the technology, and I was able to understand things, and that's how I got my introduction into security type applications. But yeah, it's if I look back, if I were to summarize what a lot of my roles had in common, I'll say my superpower, I guess, is the ability to build things. I was involved in a project. GC key, username and password login portal for government, public-facing government applications, right? We were asked to size it for 1 million users. 2 years later, it was 7 million plus users, and on the same infrastructure. The 20-person company I was at that we won it, I ran the implementation team, ran operations for 2 years, but we built everything from the ground up. The service didn't happen. The call center started with an empty room.
I might have joined the team that you beat that was big right after.
You might have.
You were the David to their Goliath. Definitely.
Yeah. We took out Dell was the incumbent, CGI, IBM, Entrust. The best call that I was ever part of after we had won it, there was a VP from IBM called us and said, "Big projects are what we do. So when you run into problems and you fail, feel free to give us a call."
Wow.
Yeah. Anyways,
you nailed something for me that the big boys, you got to dance with the elephants and not get squashed. However, if you are in this town and probably most towns and say I'm a security architect, you better be a builder. It's not enterprise architecture.
No. And actually, so let me tie that one back into your other question, especially for the new grads, and what are you trying to do? One key aspect, what order do I want to put these in? I've heard a lot of students that are in their programs or they're just leaving, and say, "What do you want to do?" I want to be a hacker.
Yeah.
All right.
I want to be a pen tester.
I want to be a pen tester, right? Yeah. I want to be the white hat, and it's like, okay.
No one ever says they want to be a CISO, by the way.
No.
Ever.
No. But my point is, okay, you want to go from step 0 to step
Yeah.
10.
Yeah, 0 to hero.
And great, that's an awesome goal. Hang on to it. You
Yeah.
can learn all of the
Yeah.
tools and techniques.
Have a North Star, by all means.
Absolutely, but if if your hopes and dreams, if that's the only job you want to get out of school, you probably aren't going to get it. And so set your expectations properly. So the biggest skill set that I find missing from a lot of the cyber programs is the networking background. And the best, to put it another way, the best cyber and the best security people that I've come across in my career are excellent networking people. Because you might
We've heard that thing. It's a weird networking and networking. Like
Yeah.
you need
Yeah.
the system and network as a base.
Yeah.
And you need to networking in
Yeah.
the other sense.
People
So-
networking and
But the core is
technology.
that network.
Absolutely, yeah. Even installers that wear the badge of the vendor, they walk into a client site, they know their UI and their configuration inside out and backwards. It doesn't work. Well, I don't know. Why doesn't it work?
Yeah.
If you can't understand how
Where's it go next?
the ones and zeros flow from point A to B and all the way through if you can't understand that, then your piece is of limited value. So,
And,
Yeah,
and
100%.
the SOC, right? If
Yeah.
you're gonna come into a SOC, at least if you've been at a knock before,
Yeah.
you can troubleshoot.
yeah, and the other, you can also, I think, I've got a theory, you can somewhat plan your accidental tourists, is a line that you've used a couple times, right? So if you want to be here, if you want to be the cyber person, don't be afraid of starting on the IT help desk.
Right.
Because, as an
Yeah.
example, right? Because that's going to give you visibility to the entire environment. And if you can be a rock star on the help desk, I can guarantee
yeah.
you're
Yeah.
going to make it to the level 2, level 3 sysadmin roles immediately. Look for the opportunities to understand and pick up the security products. And from there, you can pivot and write your ticket. So,
You made me think of something about the career path is the same as the when I draw security roadmaps, I talk about tacking to the North Star. Right?
Yeah.
So I don't understand sailing, but it's your career sometimes goes
it's turning into the wind.
here, here, here. As long as you go, that's the North Star.
Yeah.
Like let's take advantage of the wind. But every so often you may find yourself way far away from that path in a kind of edge job going,
Yeah.
is this really helping? And the answer is, as long as you got your eyes on the North Star and you started with the help desk,
Yeah.
sometimes you got to tack, and the things you pick up along there count at a later round.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, there's a number of recent grads that I've been trying to work with and help and counsel, and guys that I've coached or part of my scout group once upon a time that are really struggling to find that first job, and it's persistence, perseverance. And a lot of it is going to be learning on your own. There's a lot of
Yeah.
libraries out there. There's a lot of free resources.
Yeah.
You have to stay current, because when you go into an interview, if you don't understand the acronyms, if you don't understand the technology, if you can't answer those 2 or 3 technical questions that they're going to ask, then the person that comes in next, they will.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And there's no training manual for cyber. There's just no training manual.
No, absolutely not. So stay current. If you're listening to the podcast, that's a good first step. So.
Yeah, I remember when I started out, I thought a firewall was like a mainframe. I expected to see, but I had only ever used IP tables. I built firewalls in college in IP tables.
Yeah.
So when I did my first interview, I understood how traffic flows. But then they were like, "Here's a firewall," and they handed me like a NetScreen 5 GT, and I was like, "Where's the rest of it? Like, what am I supposed to do with this?" And then from there, all I did was, like, there's always a docs.whatevercompany.com, and you just have to learn. You have to read.
Okay.
And then you'll find it. If you try hard, people will also come to you and help you.
Yeah.
If I was, I keep a Moneyball score in my head of who says what. Like these are the 5 skills, and always the hardcore skills is networking and system and top.
Yeah.
On the characteristics or intangibles, persistence, curiosity, self-taught.
Yeah.
Those are like, there's maybe a couple more, but I think, yeah, if I was hiring someone from scratch, and you can't see those on a resume.
No, and I mean, software development is another one, right? It's especially out of school, and I've talked to hiring managers, and the people that stand out The people that end up getting the jobs are the ones that they enjoy it. And so they're coding in the summer, they're coding in
It's
their
their
spare
passion,
time.
100%.
It's their passion, right? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, cool, how am I gonna do this? Well, I don't know how to build a website. Let's build a website. What's it for? I'm putting it together so my buddies and I can share high scores about the COD or whatever, right?
Mhm.
So, but they're curious.
Yeah.
And so if you aren't curious, if you don't love it, then yeah, it's then think about why you're doing it again.
You know what? The other two are passion and purpose.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, the other guy is, or girl,
Yeah.
and they're gonna crush you because at night they think it's fun to read about cyber.
Yeah.
And I felt that way about R&D and design. I didn't love it.
No.
And I couldn't understand why after coding all day, the other people were coding around for fun at night. I went,
Yeah.
like, why?
Yeah.
They go, Carl, I just love coding. And I went, I don't. You're always gonna beat me.
Yeah. And to this day, I still don't know why my bubble sort algorithm failed. But,
That's, you know what?
I'll
The
get over
coders
that.
told me I was a good hacker, and it wasn't a compliment in the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah.
A good hack.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, it's there's a couple thoughts.
I feel like that's a wrap.
Excellent.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Well, thank you very much. This was awesome.
Yeah, thanks so
Oh, it
much
was
for
awesome.
coming on, sharing the story. We appreciate it.
Much appreciated, Bill. All right,
All right.
photo time?
Yep.
Excellent.
And thanks for not playing the outro music, Carl.
Exactly.